How's it? This is your live show for the week of November 5th and November 6th. Hope you guys are doing well. Let's talk about all the NFL and college football games that you guys want to talk about for the next 20 minutes or so. And then I will go on and we'll finalize our football card for the week. But this is just something complimentary that we do. We can talk about whatever games that you guys want to talk about and go ahead and give you the leans on those games. They might be on our final card, they might not be on our final card. But this is to kind of get you squared away and kind of get us squared away on what we're thinking about for the week as it relates to the football card. So go ahead and put your games down right now that you are talking about, that you would like to have some thoughts about. I'll be happy to research those games for you. So I hope you guys are doing well. Let's go ahead and start plopping in the games. Hey, Drew, good to see you, my man. What's your take on the Cardinals and Seahawks? Drew's usually one of the first people up on our live show, which is kind of cool. Um, so my original thought on the Arizona game is, obviously Arizona's 3-5 and Seattle's 5-3. So Arizona at this point, will this experiment with this coaching staff continue to work or not? I don't know. They beat New Orleans 42-32, but they lost to a good Minnesota team, 26-34. But odds makers expected them to do well in that Minnesota game. That's the reason why they were only a 4-point dog going in, and they ended up losing that game. Remember, they at one point it was 26-28. I mean, they were right in that game before they gave up that touchdown late, so they were covering until about 12 minutes left to go in the game. This is a game that they have to win, man, or else their season is pretty much done. You can't be 3-6 and expect to go to the playoffs. Especially a division in which the Rams are doing well, and Seattle is sitting at, having won 3 in a row. But Seattle just beat this team 19-9, so they have a little bit of revenge there on them. I know Seattle beat the Chargers 37-23, and we were on Seattle against the Giants, and they're playing pretty phenomenal football. But Seattle also has Tampa Bay on deck, and I just think this is do or die right now for Arizona. And because of that do or die mentality, I actually like Arizona in this game. Because at the end of the day, they took the Eagles to pretty deep, right? It was a home game. They only lost by 3 points to the Eagles. They were a 5.5-point dog coming into that game, and then they were just hung over in the next Seattle game. They only scored 9 points against Seattle last time too. They had 171 passing yards. They had more passing yards than Seattle did. And as far as rushing, they had more rushing yards than Seattle did last time. So they had both, and yet they still lost. Go figure. So I think this will shape out to be a little different. I think they'll be motivated a little bit better. And I like Arizona this week for your first lean. Okay. All right, moving on here. Hey, Jacob, good to see you, my man. Matthew, good to see you. Astros, Philly tonight. Blake, that's our premium selection in baseball today. So I can't give it to you. It's a 4-unit selection, but I can tell you that I can't give it to you, but we're on the total for what it's worth. And I think it'll be a different tenor than yesterday. I hope you get that drift. But our selection is on the total there. Hey, I see Philly versus the Texans. Yeah, Nicholas, we're going to do our daily video. I'll have it on there. But for that game, I have a small lean on the Houston Texans in that game, just because I think it's Houston's Super Bowl, if you will. I think that it's the whole country will be watching this game, and I know Philadelphia is 7-0. But if you're a Houston, aren't you going to get up for this game? This is your Super Bowl. This is your exciting. The only reason why you have any relevance at all is because of this game. Right? Because or else otherwise no one's going to watch this game. So, the simple fact that, the fact that Houston, they're, catching plus 14 points, but this is pretty much their only relevance. This is their Super Bowl, if you will. They got ran on for 300 yards against Tennessee. I think they'll do a little bit better there. And I think this will be their best effort they put forth. At the end of the day, Philadelphia comes off a season high of 35 points against Pittsburgh. And I think they have a classic letdown here. So I'm willing to take a lean on Houston here, plus the points. I just think this is a game that they'll get up for with national attention. They will do relatively well and kind of sneak inside the backdoor cover possibly as well. And there's a trend that I liked in this game that I'll share with you. Is that the Phillies 1-4 ATS on the road as well. So, and Houston is 5-2 ATS when they face winning teams at home. So lean on Houston there for you. Let me grab this here. Moving on here, next game. Yep, Jacob, lean on the Texans. Texas versus Kansas State. So let's talk about that game. Texas is favored here by 2.5, 24th ranked team versus the 13th ranked team. Of course, Kansas State isn't getting the same respect as Texas does. which is a shame. But Texas, was favored by 6.5 against Oklahoma State, and they lost that game, which was a very disappointing game. But they were up 31-24, and they couldn't close it out in that game. Oklahoma State came back and put up 14 in the fourth quarter against them. Kansas State comes off a huge win against the very Oklahoma State team, and they thumped them 48-0. Just, they played pretty tight against TCU to their credit. Iowa State, Texas Tech, Oklahoma. But of course, they struggled against Oklahoma, and then you have a Texas team that absolutely demolished Oklahoma, 49-0. So, it's hard to say. But I like, at the end of the day, you have Texas coming off of a loss. You have Kansas State coming off a huge win. Texas has TCU on deck too, so they'll be looking forward to that game too. But Texas has won this game the last, 5 years in a row. I actually sort of like Texas here. Total was 59 for Texas in their last game. Total usually hovers around high 40s, low 50s here for Kansas State. And the total that was set up in this game was around 54.5. I think Texas is probably the right lean, especially given the fact they gave 41 points to Oklahoma State the last game. And typically Texas defense isn't that bad. It's actually not that bad at all. So I actually lean on Texas. I think they'll bounce back here against Kansas State, who'll come in a bit of a letdown spot after their big win. Moving on here. Hey, Anthony, good to see you. How's it? I see Jets versus Bills. Yeah, so in the Jets-Bills game, that game is obvious. Bills are favored by 12.5, and you have a 6-1 team and a 5-3 team here. Are the Jets for real? That's the question. The Bills won, 27-10 the last time they played each other. The Bills have Minnesota on deck. They just beat Green Bay by 10, but they didn't demolish Green Bay or anything. They didn't play particularly well, frankly. Buffalo was up 24-7, and then they just kind of coasted. Really, I think they were just trying not to embarrass Aaron Rodgers. But the Jets come into this game coming off a 17-22 loss to New England. Maybe they'll bounce back. They traditionally bounce back. And they also had the Patriots on deck too. But I didn't think the Bills played particularly well the last game. Usually they're pretty good for a cover if they missed the previous cover. Bills only had 200 yards passing as well. The Green Bay actually held the ball longer in that game. And I don't think, it's a divisional game as well, right? I don't think the Bills will really overlook the Jets here. I think they're going to play pretty well. And rather than messing with the total, I actually like the Bills in this game. I think they played pretty well. I think they were kind of just chilling out in their last game, and they're well aware of the Jets being pretty decent and the fact the Jets are 5-3. Even though the Jets come off a loss, I actually like the Bills here in this game. And I want you to know that the Bills, by the way, are 7-2 ATS against the AFC East, right? And the Jets are also, 3-7 ATS in their last 10 home games as well. Moving on here. Iowa State, West Virginia. So Iowa State, West Virginia. Let's see here. So you have a 3-5 team and another 3-5 team, and obviously the total sitting at 51.5 or 50. And people like the under here. Kind of like the over when I started out with this game. West Virginia comes off a 10-point loss to TCU. They actually played pretty well against TCU. They were only a touchdown dog against a top-ranked team. And yet they hang tough and they hug tough, right? They were down 28-21 at the half, and then fell apart in the second half, so to speak. But they hung in that game, and they only lost by 10. They have Oklahoma on deck here, and then you have an Iowa State team that lost to this team by a touchdown last year. And Iowa State comes off a 14-point loss to Oklahoma. They only lost to Texas by 3. They lost to Kansas State by 1. They lost to Kansas by 3. They lost Baylor by a touchdown. They lost 5 in a row, but this is probably the game they step up here. And it's shocking to sort of see them favored by this much coming off 5 straight losses, but they need a big win. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Iowa State steps up here. It's a game that I sort of had on my radar to begin with. I actually thought Iowa State coming off a series of losses, they're still bowl bound. It's not like they're not bowl bound. And I think West Virginia might have shot their, shot, if you will, in their last game. So I think they probably struggle a little bit here. They probably, sort of gave their best shot at TCU, and I think they might be hungover. How do you play TCU, who's basically a top 10 team, and then you turn around and play Iowa State? That's tough to do. West Virginia, by the way, is 2-5 ATS in their last 7 road games, and Iowa State for what it's worth, is 5-2 ATS when they face a team with a losing record. Moving on here. What else here? Scott Young. Hey, Scott, good to see you, my man. Boise State versus BYU. Boise State versus BYU, you know, total sits around 55.5, 62% on the over. 4-5 team versus a 6-2 team. It's been a tough year for BYU. Lost to Arkansas, lost to Liberty, lost to ECU as a favorite at home. That game was nationally televised. Lost to Notre Dame by 8. It was such a promising start, and then the wheels kind of fell apart. But Boise State rolls into this game having beaten, Colorado State in a rout, and Air Force, and covered against Fresno as well, and San Diego State. They've covered 4 in a row. They're doing really well. And Nevada on deck. These two teams last met last year, and Boise State won by 11, and they're probably even better this year. Total for BYU games are around 60 to 67. Usually, Boise State games are usually around 40 to 50, quite honestly. So it's a pretty low scoring thing. And this game is set at right around that 55 margin, which kind of favors a Boise State. Actually, no, sorry. It kind of favors a BYU style of game if it's supposed to be higher scoring, right? Because Boise State is a phenomenal defense. It's hard to say here. But if anything else, with BYU coming off, BYU's defense is given a 28, 52, 41, and 27. And Boise State's defense is given up 13, 20, 14, and 10. There's no doubt Boise State's the better team. But BYU is a hurt squad that's going to try to bounce back here, but they're a pretty hurt squad coming in here. If I had to pick a spot, I might take a lean on the under. I might take a lean on Boise State, but I don't have a huge feeling about this game. You have a hurt squad that's trying to fight for their season. You have Boise State, who's just a better team. I think, maybe BYU is an active dog. What happens when BYU is an active dog? They were an active dog against, they've been favored in their last 3 games and they lost, right? They were a small dog against Oregon, and that game went to 61. So maybe I'll actually take a lean on the over here. I think BYU could be an active dog. I'm surprised Boise State isn't favored by more. So I'll take a small lean on the over between BYU and Boise State. Moving on here. Awesome. Thank you, IC. Of course, anytime, Blake. Exactly. Texans have nothing to play for and are playing possibly the best team in the NFL. Why not show it? Yeah, I think they have nothing to lose. I think the Texans, you're going to get the best effort in the Texans here because they're getting to face an undefeated Eagles team. So I think they show up, and maybe they lose by 10 or something. Sort of reminds me of the Packers-Bills game recently. TCU, Texas Tech. So let's talk about that game. Hey, Eric, good to see you, my man. Let's see here. TCU, Texas Tech. TCU, Texas Tech. Yeah, so TCU is favored by 8.5, a 4-4, and an 8-0 team. But how much do they handle success? They're now a top 10 team. They're on everybody's radar now. Congratulations to TCU, but they have Texas on deck too. Beat up on West Virginia a little bit. Beat Kansas State. Beat Oklahoma State. Obviously, they're perfect, but Texas Tech has lost 17 to 45 against Baylor, but then beat West Virginia. Obviously, before that, 48-10. Only lost by 10 to Oklahoma State. Hung in there against Kansas State, beat Texas. They're totally a hit or miss team. And the last year when they played each other, TCU routed them 52-31. It just kind of depends on how they handle success. But I actually think Texas Tech is going to show up this game. I think Texas Tech is a feisty team. I think the fact that they're only 8.5-point dogs shows the respect people have for Texas Tech because they're able to put together a good – and they come off one of the worst losses of the year, right? So it kind of makes sense to me to, take a small lean here on Texas Tech. I think they hang tough against TCU. They get to face a top 10 team on the road, and they're only a small dog. And, the Red Raiders are 8-1 ATS in their last 9 games coming off a loss, and the Horned Frogs are not a bad team, of course, but how do they handle success? They just ended up, now they're a top 7 team. You start getting big in your head when you start thinking you're that good. So just keep that in mind. Hope that helps, Eric. Tamim Sultani. Hey, Tamim. Seahawks versus Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, we talked about that earlier in the video, and my lean is on Arizona. I think they're a 3-5 team. They lost by 10 to Seattle last time. Huge revenge game for them. They actually played pretty well against Minnesota, who's a very good team, the Vikings, and they hung tough. I think you're going to see Arizona's pretty decent effort from Arizona at home. And I know Seattle's 5-3, but I'll take the 3-5 team. Moving on here. Good afternoon, bye. What's up, man? Hey, Showtime. Good to see you, man. Green Bay first half. Yeah, so for the Green Bay game, 3-5 team versus a 1-6 team. When I first looked at this game, I actually like the over. I like taking two really crappy teams for the over because people are like, oh, they're so bad, they're not going to score points. No, they're so bad because their defense. These are all professional athletes, so they're still going to be pretty good on offense. Green Bay scored 17 points against Buffalo, played a great defense. Washington's not a bad defense either. They get to face Detroit here, who gave up 29 in New England, 24 against Dallas, and 31 against Miami. So, I like the fact that the total is high. I think the Packers, obviously, they're 3-5, so maybe they salvage their season, or maybe they're just setting up Aaron Rodgers to failure, so he'll leave and they can move on. Detroit beat this team by 7 last time. It's a divisional game. This can go back and forth. My early lean here is you either got to take the Packers or you got to take the over. And honestly, I can't trust the Packers. So I'll take the over just because I think you're going to see their best effort. And I think Detroit can be an active dog. Detroit's not that bad on offense. They put up 24 against Minnesota, 45 against Seattle, struggled against New England, and they face a good Dallas defense. But I like the over in this game. I think these are two frustrated teams, and I think they're going to show out. And I think everybody's mad at the world, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see this game probably go over the posted total there for you. So as far as the side, I don't have a lean on the side because I just don't trust Green Bay fully. I just don't trust them because you lost to Washington. Detroit's a frustrated team. They're trying to pick up a win here too, right? They're 1-6. So I actually like the over more than anything else. Let's see here. Raiders, Jaguars. So the Raiders, Jaguars game. The Raiders favored by 1.5. A lot of people are commenting on Josh McDaniels just not being a good coach. Raiders scored 0 points in the last game against New Orleans. Maybe they get motivated. The only wins they've had this year is against Denver, who was anemic in offense, and Houston, and they didn't beat them. Jacksonville rolls in, losing to Denver, losing to the Giants, losing to the Colts. They're not there yet. They've lost 4 or 5 straight covers. But I think it's unfair for them to expect immediate transformation when they just don't have the talent level. These two teams haven't met since 2019. But with Vegas coming off 0 points in their last game against New Orleans, a team that has a pretty high-powered offense, and with Jacksonville facing a pretty good Denver defense and a pretty good Giants defense, this team did put up 27 on the Colts and 21 on Philadelphia. I actually think this game probably goes over here rather than take a side because you've got two frustrated teams. Vegas coming off 0 points in their last game and Jacksonville coming off a series of losses. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see this game go over. I like Vegas. I like Vegas and Jacksonville over the posted total. Moving on here. I will be at the Iowa State game. It's homecoming and it's 100% rain forecast. Yeah. Well, that's I hope you enjoyed the game. And, the thing about the Iowa State game is obviously in the trenches that would favor Iowa State probably in that game. So to me, I like the over in the Raiders Jaguars game, by the way. So Kate Bowles, hey, good to see you, my man. Michigan State, Illinois. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. How does Michigan State respond after all the suspensions and stuff? Do they come together as a team and whatnot? And, you have a Michigan State team that's 3-5, and you have an Illinois team that's 7-1 now, just phenomenal. Beat Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Chattanooga. What a turnaround for the Illinois football team. Brett Bielema took over. Brett Bielema's mad at the world. He's showing that he can coach still, so good for him. Michigan State comes off that 7-29 against loss against Michigan, losing by 29 to Ohio State and 14 against Maryland. Once the coach got the big contract, it seems that things kind of fell off the rails there in Michigan State. But he's also got a really young team, so you can't really fault him too much. Illinois won by 3 back in 2019. They're significantly better now. But Michigan State's in a little bit of a mess. I think this is one of those games where Illinois is not going to show too much. They're going to get an early lead, like 21-0, like back in the Wisconsin days. And then after that, they're just going to sit on the team. Illinois' defense is so good. They've given up 3-0, 10, 9, 14, and 9 points in their last 6 games. Just phenomenal. I like the under, by the way, between Illinois and Michigan State. All right. Moving on here. Tennessee, Georgia. Hey, Nicholas. Good to see you, my man. By the way, guys, don't forget college basketball starts in 4 days. We're expecting a great season. Can't wait for you to join us. NBA, we're on a nice little run there. We missed yesterday, but we'll bounce back today. And we're expecting a great season in the NBA and college basketball. And hockey, hopefully we'll have 3 straight winning years. Tennessee versus Georgia. Yeah, what a game. Um, Georgia's favored by 8.5. Nobody's respecting Georgia. Tennessee comes in as the number one team in the land, and they're catching 8.5. Just remarkable that the line is 8.5 here. And Georgia is a home dog, given the fact that they're defending national champs. Just kind of funny. Um, Georgia beat Florida obviously by 22, but they didn't cover that game. And like last year, Georgia won 41-17. So Tennessee has all the revenge in the world. That game was totaled at 55.5. Normally, Tennessee games are in the, um, you know, normally, Tennessee games are totaled around 60, 65. And Georgia games are totaled around 55. Always look to see what the total is for a game. It'll tell you what is expected. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it'll tell you what is expected. And this one, sits at around 65. It's a favoring a Tennessee type of a high-scoring affair. But if Georgia was to ever prove a point, this would be the point that they try to prove. Georgia at the end of the day beat Auburn 42-10. Right. And they beat Missouri, but they barely beat Missouri. They've been kind of on and off the whole time. And Tennessee comes in this game highly disrespected. It's I actually think Georgia's going to win. I do. Will they cover? I think they'll actually cover too. But I mean, it's not like Tennessee doesn't know the spread. They know they're being highly disrespected here. I think the tenor of this game will probably go over just because Tennessee wants to rout them and Georgia wants to rout them. And I think if you put it all together, I wouldn't be surprised if both these teams just want to destroy each other, and hence this game goes over. I don't see defense being at a premium in this game, especially Georgia giving up 20-plus points or 20 points to Florida. Georgia gave up 22 to Missouri. Georgia gave up 22 to Kent State. I think Georgia can be suspect on the defensive end too. I like the over in this game. Moving on here. BYU wide receiver out for the season, and Romney might be redshirting for next year. Thank you, Donald. Andrew, go Senators. Moving on. Opinions on taking first half total under in the Eagles Texans tonight, also leading Huskies Beavers tomorrow night. Hey, Daryl, good to see you. Donald, Andrew, good to see you. Yeah, so in the Eagles Texans game, I like the Texans. I just think it's their Super Bowl. They're facing a 7-0 team. They're going to get excited. They're going to play them. They're going to give their best effort, especially with the nation watching. As far as I don't have a lean as much as on the under in that game. If anything, if it's an active dog, I believe it's a theory I came up with almost 20 years ago, active dog over, favorite under. I think the game might go over, but I'd much rather lean on the Houston Texans, which is what I'll give you on the daily video shortly when I put it out there. As far as the Huskies and Beavers are concerned, by the way, we're about to end this video very soon. But the Huskies and Beaver, the total opened up at 16 and dropped down to 40, 54.5. You have a 6-2 team versus another 6-2 team. I've always liked to take the under with two high quality teams or winning teams. The Huskies roll, or Oregon State rolls in, having beaten this team 27-24 last year. The last 3 have gone under. Oregon State just won 42-9 against Colorado, but they typically don't produce back-to-back huge offensive performance games. Washington comes to this game winning a huge game against Cal, 28-21. Washington defense can be suspect, though, having given up 21 and 39 and 45 and 40 points, 22. So I thought it was interesting how Oregon State came in as a dog and Washington as a favorite, even though Oregon State, I believe, has the better defense. So personally, I actually like the points here in Oregon State plus the points. I think their defense is relatively phenomenal. And I think that will probably be the cake here at the end of the day. They held USC to 17 points, mind you. So a small lean for me on Oregon State. And there you go. What do we cover? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we covered 12 games for you. Hope that is helpful for you. Hope that gets your weekend going on the right note. If you appreciate all the content, please make sure to like the video. It's recorded, so you can always come back and watch this at any time you want to. The link is recorded. It's public information for you. This gets us on the right foot for our football card for the week. And that's about it. Let's see. How are you coming? Hey, Arian, Rich. Rich, our lean on Philly Houston, it's our premium 4-star MLB, so we can't give it away. But yeah, I do think it'll be different than what yesterday's game was if on the total. And that should give you a hint there. Thanks, Anthony. Andrew. We'll try to give you a hockey pick on the daily video. Thanks for your efforts. Showtime, Lily and Bananas. Byron, we'll try to get to that game maybe on the daily video. Chicago Bears active dog over. Just sub. Thank you. Anytime noise. Hey Kenny, good to see you. So yeah, so the Chicago Bears game. Let me hit that for you real fast. I would say that in that contest, you have a lean for you there. It was yeah, I mean, with the Bears coming off such an ugly loss, a defensive loss in their last game, that's something you can take a look at. Plus, Miami gave up 27 points too in their last game. I wouldn't be surprised if that game goes under the total for what it's worth. I do lean on Miami, though. I think the Bears pretty much, it was a close game in their last contest, but I do small lean on Miami, small lean on the under. So that makes sense for us there. There we go. Hope you guys are doing well. James, nothing on hockey. We might have it on our app selection, but nothing on hockey today. Hope you guys are doing well. I think we got, we try to stay within 30 minutes. I think we got to all the games. Let me try to do one more here. Let's see. UTEP Rice. Hey, Bam, good to see you. Let me try to do UTEP Rice while I'm here. So the UTEP Rice game. Oh, that's the game tonight. Yeah. So I can tell you Arlene is on App State for the other game, by the way. Which will be on our daily video. The UTEP Rice game, I think I like the under originally. 4-5 team, 4-4 team. UTEP rolls in coming off of a loss. They typically play much better defense off of a loss. 41 points to Louisiana Tech. They only give 21 FAU. Lost 13-24 to Middle Tennessee last game. The last 3 years in a row, it's gone way over 45, 43, 46. Rice lost by 12 last time. UTEP won. So Rice does have revenge coming in. Rice gave up 56 points in their last game. So they're likely to play better defense too. And that game was totaled at 61 and the other one was at 56.5. So, and the reason why this one's total low is it's probably going to go under. So I do like the under in UTEP and Rice. Yeah, the baseball game tonight, our 4 unit is on the premium is on the total. Okay. So we can't give you that. But yeah. So there you go. But I will tell you, I think it'll be different than yesterday. That should be a nice little hint for you. Hope you guys are doing well. And but Arturo, I just gave you the biggest hint. So what do you got? 27 minutes. Let's do 2 more or 1 more. Ravens Saints. Let's see. Yeah, we'll talk more about this game when it actually comes on Monday night. But I'm leaning on the over in that game, and I'm actually leaning on the Saints too. Saints are fantastic at home. But my original lean is going to be on the over between the Ravens and Saints for that game. And I think that is about Hey, Richard, good to see you. New England game. Yeah, let's see. So, total's at 39.5, which is a low total. And people still like the under in that game. Yeah, I like the Patriots. I think the Colts are a mess. Losing to Washington, I think that'll break their back. Losing to Tennessee, I know they've lost 2 in a row here. I don't see them coming back from it. And I know that New England, I think, with their quarterback controversy and both quarterbacks wanting to play well, rather than messing with the total. Plus, New England or Indianapolis won 27-17 last time. And given Bill Belichick's dislike of the Patriots or the Colts organization, I think the lean is on the Patriots for me. There you go. Hope you guys are doing well. There's all your thoughts. I think there's like 15 or 20 games in there, so be sure to check it out. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like the video, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.